Okay, so today we're going to learn about the process of elimination. And what it's going to do is it's going to help us when we get to these type of problems. So if you remember last time from substitution, I said that we had to get something that didn't have a number in front by itself. So last time we would have got x by itself and then plug that in and solved. But those types of problems take a long time. So whenever we're going to have the x and y on the same side, we're going to do this thing called elimination. And here's what you do for elimination. You can add both equations together and see what happens. So we are going to add the top equation and the bottom equation together. So I'm going to have x plus negative x, which that will give me 0 x's. So those will go away. I'll have 7 plus 9, which will give me 16y. And then I'm going to have negative 9 minus 23, which will give me negative 32. And now I have this new equation where I only have one variable. So this makes it really easy to solve for y. We're going to divide 16 on both sides, and we're going to get that y is equal to negative 2. Now at this point, I should know that I'm not done because I only have one variable. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to plug in y into one of these two equations to figure out what x is. So I'm just going to take the top equation because that one seems a bit easier. Let's see if we can find what y is. First, I'm going to do 7 times negative 2, get negative 14. Then I'm going to add 14 to both sides. We're going to get that x is equal to 5. So our point would be 5 comma negative 2. Let's do one more example like this. Let's see if we can figure out the first step in this elimination problem. What would be my first step? Hopefully you said adding, because we're going to add these two things together. Now that we're going to add these two things together, we should get x plus 3x, and that will give us 4x. We'll have negative 2y plus 2y. Those will cancel out. I'll be just left with nothing, or 0y. And that's going to equal 12. Now we can find what x equals. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And we're going to find out that x is equal to 3. Now that I know that x is equal to 3, what would I have to do to figure out what y is equal to? If you said something along the lines of plug it back in to find what y is, so plug x into one of these two spots to find what y is, you're correct. So I'm going to plug it into the top equation because, again, that seems the easiest. Subtract 3, negative 2y equals 7, divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. So y should equal negative 3.5. And again, I would write this as 3 comma negative 3.5. Okay. So that's the basics of elimination. Hopefully, the nice part is you get both equations to cancel out when you add. We can get another situation. Here's the other situation. This situation happens when you try to add the two equations, nothing cancels out. So we'll see this negative 4x plus 3, or negative 4x plus 1x will give me negative 3x. 9y plus negative 3y will give me 6y. And then 9 plus negative 6 will give me 3. And as you can see, we can't do the same trick like I can't divide anything because I still have two variables. So nothing canceled. if nothing cancels, we have to do something else. So if nothing cancels, we have to do something else. Here's what we're going to do to fix this situation. We're going to make sure something cancels. And if you remember, what happens is, we would like, if I have to figure out what number can I add to -4 to make x become the 0. So what number should go here? The answer would be 4. So I'd like the number in front of this x to be 4. And we can make that happen by timesing everything by 4. So if I times this whole thing by 4, we get new equations. We get -4x plus 9y equals 9. And we'd get 4x minus 12y equals -24. See how I just took 4 and I multiplied it by everything? Now when we add it, we already saw over here that it will cancel, but -4 plus 4, that goes away. 9 plus -12 will give me -3y. And then 9 minus 24 is going to give me -15. So then when I divide by -3 of y equals 5. See if you can figure out what x is before I solve it here. Okay, so let's try to solve this. I'm going to plug that 5 into this top equation right here. So what I would have would be, oh, I got to look back up again. Let's put it over here so I can kind of see still. So what we would have would be -4 x plus 9 times 5 equals 9. So then I would have -4x plus 45 equals 9. I would minus 45 on each side. Then I would have -4x equals, that should be -36. Divide by -4, divide by -4. X would give me 9. So those would be my two answers. My answer, like my final answer, would be 9, 5. Let's try one last example. Again, in this example, we wouldn't be able to add these two things together because when we add them together, they don't equal out. Like they don't cancel anything. I would still have x's left over. So then it becomes, how can we eliminate 16, -8? So what would I need to do to -8 so that these two things will eliminate? So I want you to figure out what number times -8 will make these two things eliminate. If you thought the number would be 2, you're correct, because 16 minus 16 would give me 0. So we're going to take that second equation and times it by 2, so those two things cancel. What we would end up getting for my second equation would be -16x minus 12y equals 12. We're going to add these things together and see what we get. These cancel. This would give me -22y, and this would give me 22. When we divide by -22, we should get that y is equal to -1. Now that I have this, let's see if you can figure out what x will equal. Okay, so let's solve for x. Again, I'm going to move the screen just over slightly so I can figure this out. Again, I'm going to pick the top equation because that seems the easiest. So I have 16x minus 10 times -1 equals 10. So I have 16x plus 20, or plus 10, equals 10. because negative 10 times negative 1 is 10. I'll subtract 10 from each side. So then I'll have 16x equals 0. I'll divide by 16. I'll divide by 16, so I'll get x equals 0. So my point would be 0, negative 1. So this is how we would do elimination. Try these different problems.